Become the ultimate crocheter with these 11 habits. I've been crocheting for over 10 years now, and these are just different things that I've learned that end up being helpful in the long run. It is important that you not only know how to crochet, but how to incorporate these other things so that you can get the most out of this fun hobby, so that your work looks clean, so that you enjoy it, so that you can keep doing it for a while. A lot of different things that contribute to being the best you can be. To start off, I'm going to introduce things that don't even have to necessarily do with the action of crocheting itself. A lot goes into that. You can always learn new ways and methods to crochet better, but this is more outside habits that maybe you haven't put thought on or dedicated time to doing that I really highly suggest. People always say, oh my God, I have arthritis, my fingers, carpal tunnel, hands dying. I think one way to avoid this is investing in some hooks with good ergonomics. Crocheting down here, if you're wondering what I'm doing with my hands, you can't see it, but yeah. Anyways, this squishy, it's not squishy, but like thick part makes it so that my hands don't hurt as bad in comparison. So when I started off crocheting, I used to have a hook that was just the metal part. I feel like that's what everyone starts with, but I think it gets to a point where you don't keep crocheting with that because it really does hurt your hands. Like I physically don't think I'm able to even crochet nicely with a regular hook anymore. One that just doesn't have any of the ergonomics on the outside. But if you don't like this one, there's a lot of different ones online. I know people put like tennis balls on their hooks and a lot goes into it, but this is a good way to keep your hands healthy. And if you plan on crocheting and getting into bigger crochet projects, you definitely want to invest in hooks with ergonomics. And also, it's also a cute way to decorate your hooks. Like I like having the little color on my hooks, and honestly soon I think I'm gonna invest in like an all pink set. I think that will be cute. Organization. Just keeping your yarn organized. I'm not necessarily talking about your yarn stash because it gets to a point where that takes over your whole life. But I'm more talking about while you're crocheting, having your yarn already not knotted, like maybe investing in some yarn winders or just making sure that you pull your yarn from the center so that it doesn't keep flipping every time you crochet, because when that happens to me, I'm probably crocheting for a very short time because I can't deal with the yarn flipping over and over again. But I know there's a lot of other things to keep your yarn organized so that the process can be done a lot quicker when you don't have something in your way and the yarn is just easily being brought to you. It's not going to mess up the tension because like the yarn has to keep flipping. It's going to take forever, but I also like to make sure that the yarn is on the side of my body that where the string is supposed to come from. So I want to show you an example. Like I know when I'm crocheting this, the yarn is on my left side. So I don't want to put the yarn on the right side because the more friction that we have, the more annoying it's going to be to crochet nice and smooth. So if you want to be more productive and make the process more enjoyable, I suggest keeping in mind where you actually are placing the ball of yarn, because after you crocheted the same stitch a million times, that little friction is going to add up to drive you crazy. And also if you're just doing certain projects, like I know some things can be tedious if you're switching colors, whatever, it's good to have organization because in the long run, once you build a habit, you won't even think about having to do it. But it works out nicely in the long run when your yarn is just organized where you're crocheting. We're talking about crocheting for a long time, so I feel like your posture is so important. I know it can be difficult crocheting with bad posture. It's just not good because by the time you're 80 crocheting, you're going to be like, you don't want that. It's not good for you. Focus on your posture. And even on top of that, if you don't feel like sitting up while you crochet, I have heavily been contemplating getting the glasses that you can lay down and crochet at the same time. I think that's also a neat thing to have when you crochet, because if you're laying down, and crocheting, your posture's not really be affected. But also on top of that, just make sure you're sitting. If you plan on crochet for a while, make sure you're sitting where your back is up straight. You can lean up against something, because it's just gonna be annoying to crochet when your back is all bent and you just don't feel good. So good thing to focus on your posture. This is one that I highly advocate for, because if you don't finish your projects once you start them, at least in my experience, I'm not finishing them. Even if I'm all the way done, like almost done, and then I don't finish them before starting another one, I don't finish it. I highly suggest that if you actually want to finish making crochet pieces, lock in that one piece. Don't go on Pinterest looking for new inspo. Don't be like, oh my God, I want to crochet this now, and then start it, because you're not going to finish it. You're going to have a higher percentage of finished projects if you just focus on one piece and finish it as soon as you start. And honestly, you're going to see things more clearly and just have more fun, because when you're not finishing projects and you keep starting on these projects, it can be very discouraging. So you just want to make sure that once you start your projects, you finish them. It can be an annoying habit, because I know our minds wander all over the place and we see something new that we want to crochet. So now we're like, I'm gonna put this one to the side for a little bit. And then the side turns into never being touched till the end of eternity. And then it turns into wasting yarn and wasting time and never finishing projects ever. So we don't want that. I'm so passionate about this one. This habit is learning new techniques. This is so important. Once you learn to crochet, you can get away with the basic ones, and that's good when you're a beginner. To master anything at all, you need to learn new things. I think sometimes in the crochet world, we get in the habit of, I know how to make a bag, I'm gonna only make bags. I know how to make hats, I'm only gonna make hats. And that's fine, but I think ever so often, you're gonna surprise yourself that, okay, let me search on YouTube crochet and learn how to make something I've never made before. Let me learn a new stitch. And then this just opens a whole different world of things. Like once you make your first cardigan, for example, you're gonna find that how it can easily be done. And then you're gonna be making all these different cardigans that you never even touched before. So I think in order to be the best crocheter that you can be, dedicate time every week to learning new techniques, learning new stitches, learning new projects all over the place, because then you can combine all these different things. For example, I just made a crochet mesh bag, and I don't typically make bags, but now I can use that mesh stitch to make sweaters, so it just ended up improving my whole palette of crocheting because I learned how to make a bag. I think this goes with anything in general, that sometimes we get so used to things that we don't even find better ways to do it. I don't know if you guys know this guy, but he's Jim Quick, and it's called Limitless, and he teaches you how to learn faster, how to learn more efficiently, how to improve your memory, all that. And he just emphasizes over and over again the importance of learning. It is so important to learn. It's good for your brain. It's just good overall. And I feel like people get so used to doing things in their everyday life that maybe someone came up with a new method to do this quicker, to make this better, to improve. So I think every day I encourage learning something new, even if it's not just crochet. This is like life advice. Just learn. It's just a way to exponentially grow and improve your life. So learn every day. Some of these are so tedious and annoying, but I think ever so often when you're crocheting, do a checkup count to see how far, to make sure everything's on track and keeping yourself in check. Because sometimes it can look fine and then you're like, okay, I just counted and I'm missing 5 stitches. What happened? Sometimes the crochet can be misleading and you think you're okay, and then later on you're not. So maybe like every 10 rows or something, you check up and you count the amount of stitches you have to make sure it's okay. When you're going like stitches across, I highly suggest counting how many stitches you have so that you can just keep yourself on track. Even if the number ends up being wrong, okay, now you know you have to slowly fix it, and that maybe you have to keep in mind that maybe you keep skipping a stitch. And Invest in quality stitch markers. I say quality, but like I really mean actual stitch markers, like the little plastic ones. Because I used to use string stitch markers and I would look 1 second and then my stitch marker would be gone. And stitch markers are really helpful for checking up and keeping you in check. They are a perfect way to tell you, okay, do this right now. And even if it's just one that doesn't even require stitch markers, I still think that you should find a way to incorporate them so that you know for a fact, okay, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm at this part to do something here. I think that is such a good, easy way to make sure that it's perfect, because all that crochet is a bunch of tiny details that make one huge piece. So you need to make sure those tiny details matter. Crocheters can oftentimes be lazy, and I'm really talking about myself. Maybe I should listen to these habits. Anyways, so crocheters can sometimes be lazy, and then they just keep getting lazier and lazier until the piece actually looks crazy. And then you put all this time making this piece and then you never touch it, you never wear it, because all those tiny details are so noticeable to you. They might not be noticeable to everyone else, but if it's noticeable to you, you probably aren't gonna wear it subconsciously because you know that you messed up. Nobody's gonna see it, but since you will, you're not gonna use it. Weaving your ends in neatly, this is such an annoying process, and I think it's the bane of all crocheters' existence, but it's also what makes or breaks a good piece. Even if you're selling a piece or any of that, it's gonna look crazy. I mean, maybe that's like the look, like, okay, a bunch of ends aren't weaved in, but if you just have one string hanging out, it's gonna make the piece look completely different and not as professional. So you wanna make sure to weave in your ends neatly. Sometimes I catch myself just weaving it in once, tucking it in somewhere, and then it sneaks its way out somehow. Because yarn is tricky. It knots itself when I'm not looking, it untucks itself when I'm not looking. You know, you would think we'd be friends after all these years, but it really, sometimes it's just working against me. So it is important that you make sure you don't give it the opportunity to sneak out. You weave it back and forth 3 times, if that's what it takes. Which takes me to my next step, which is cutting your ends long. You want to get in the habit. When I was like a beginner crocheter, I would cut my ends super short, tie a knot once, call it a day. And then later on, when I was using the project or seeing the project, the knot untied, and I was like, what happened? What happened is I didn't cut my ends long enough to even give it a chance to weave it in 3 times. And you would rather have a longer end than you would have a short end, because you can always cut yarn, but you can't make yarn grow. So it is important that you cut it long enough in the first place. And then you can do whatever you want with it. You have a lot to work with. And it's also a blatant reminder, weave me in, because it'll be super long. Blocking, because I just feel like it changed my whole crochet game, because once I didn't block, there's no way I was wearing any pieces, there's no way I was using any pieces. But now that I do block, it's so flowy and nice and store-bought, and it's amazing. So I highly suggest, if you don't block already, do. Just do. This is just the easiest way to increase your crochet, to improve your crocheting, is by blocking, because, you know, it just makes everything amazing. I don't really crochet blankets, and I don't think oftentimes, depending on the stitch you use, that you need to, but even with projects like that, if the stitches are tight and not moving, block it. And if it's a big project like that, I know you can even just throw it in the dryer for acrylic yarn, and it will loosen the fibers and just make the piece a million times better. These are just little things. If you already know the techniques of crocheting, but you just do these little extra things, then voila, the piece is like a million times better. And then lastly, to make sure that you get the most out of your project, I feel like this is with anything. I just read this other book that is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I forget who it's by, but it's a famous book. But I was reading it, and one of the things it said is how to get someone to do something that you want. And the way to do that was by wanting to do it. I think that goes with anything. To get the best out of the things that you do is by wanting to do it, have the passion and love for it. So while you're crocheting, really enjoy the whole process, even the tedious parts, the weaving in the ends and everything. And if you trick yourself or not trick yourself, because honestly to me, I just love the whole process, and you just have to romanticize everything, which makes me remember I want to do a video on how to romanticize your crocheting, because I feel like there's different things to make you even more passionate. And really, people already love and are addicted to crocheting, but to get the most out of your pieces, to be the ultimate crocheter, is really enjoying the whole process. Just thinking to yourself, okay, this is yarn and now it's a shirt. This is yarn, now it's a blanket. Like, that is fascinating to me. And I think that we're all magicians and artists, and it's amazing. So I highly suggest really being present in the moment while you are crocheting and thinking how amazing it really is. Because outside people, they're like, oh, crocheting is so cool. But I think sometimes we forget how really crazy it is that we actually are crocheting, and that you are amazing because you can. Well, that is all for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you become the ultimate crocheter that you can be. And if you have any more tips, please comment them down below and scroll through the comments and just learn from each other. I think that's another habit, I guess I should say, is just learn from each other, reach out to other people, learn different techniques, because we all come from different areas of crochet, different origins, and we can all learn from each other. And I think that's one thing I love about having YouTube videos that are crochet, is everyone is so kind and just wants everyone to do good. There's no gatekeeping, there's no hatred. It's just love with our yarn. We're so busy hating weaving in ends that we don't have hate for each other. So I just want to hear from all of you beautiful people in my comment section, and I love to reply. And you guys always find a new way to make me smile, and I love it so much. But if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please make sure to like and subscribe. I appreciate all your support, and I know that you can do this. With these habits, with learning, with everything, you will literally shock yourself and others, because you're just amazing. Like, we're just out here doing amazing things. So hope you enjoyed. Bye.